Right then, guys, welcome back to the Stuttgart regions where we are getting ready for round 11, is it?
Yep.
Round 11, day 2. And oh my goodness, we're going to have a fun matchup on stream for you next, aren't we, Alex?
Yep, definitely. So, yep, I'm Alex. I'm here with Shay today for our round 2 of day 2. And we're finally going to be showcasing the guy who was able to back-to-back ICs in first seed, Sander Wojcik, playing another variant of Control. This time, Mewtwo V-Union will be up against Brent Koosmans playing Fusion Mew, your favorite.
My favourite deck. All the noticeable eagle-eye viewers at home will notice I've been repping the Meloetta pin badge all weekend, showing my allegiance. But Sander, every time you think, how can he innovate another Control deck? I know that obviously he has his testing group and he'll work on it, but now we've seen a rework to his NAIC creation with that Mewtwo V-Union, gaining some tools. Not only V guys, we can see there, but you might have noticed already there's a thick curlier line.
Yep, so it looks like he's got the curlier there in hand, which has that fantastic ability. We've known it as trade before, but refinement, discarding a card from your hand to then be able to draw 2 cards. A fantastic way to continue burning through the resources which he may not need, but also getting those pieces into the discard for that Mewtwo V-Union to come out of nowhere. But we'll see lots of different spicy cards in his list, as per usual. He's really refined this into a way where he's just kind of hitting the meta once again. Of course, there's typically some matchups he would like to avoid, but here he is at 8-1-1 up against Fusion Mew, sorry. Fantastic again, another Mew, showcasing the power of the deck there. And as you mentioned, you've got that Meloetta pin in full flow. Everyone
knows I love me some Fusion Mew, but I'm going to park Fusion Mew for a sec here because I want to talk more about this V-Union deck, because you might actually see in the prizes there's a Sword and Shield base set Gengar there with that Life Shaker ability. I love this card. I assume this card might see some play at some time. That Life Shaker ability is actually really good when you consider it being paired with a Mewtwo V-Union, letting you move around damage from your psychic Pokemon. So basically, Sander's sort of game plan here, and you actually might have seen his Radiant Pokemon card of choice as he was going through the deck, is he wants to try and spread as much of this damage from his Mewtwo V-Union onto other cards, such as the Curliers or the Gardevoir that he plays, or any other psychic types. And the Radiant Ticino with that elegant heal ability, letting you heal 20 from all your Pokemon, essentially just removing damage from play. And I guess the idea is here, the theory is that if the Mewtwo V-Union doesn't have to actually spend time doing the healing attack, which heals 200, it can actually just start swinging with Final Burn for 300, or even the Life Explosion, which lets you spread 16 damage counters. So imagine Sableye but doing an extra 4. Now, if you can do that turn after turn after turn, you're actually a stall control deck capable of just picking up KOs at a fast rate. So we see Sander end the turn there with a Gorman dies, and it's over to Brent.
Yep, exactly. So it's just over to Brent, and he immediately benches a pretty much almost full board there of double Mew and 3 Genesects. We're going to see many Fusion Strike systems as per usual. We can talk about Sander's deck all day because it's got so many random different cards, but of course we have to share some love for Fusion Mew as well. You know, we've seen a lot of 4 DTE Mews. There's the first Fusion Energy that we see. Have we seen Fusion Mew on stream this weekend? I don't think so.
We have, actually.
So that's the first attachment, which is fantastic to see. Just it doing so well, because this is one of the few variants of Mew that we actually thought might actually be very good going into this tournament, because you're able to attack going second with that Meloetta. This deck is kind of doing a bit of a throwback as well. It's got a lot of the Pokemon catchers. It's still playing the Lost City to kind of maybe remove things like the Drapion Vs if they suddenly pop out of nowhere. But then it's got an extra cards like, you know, the Lost Vacuum, the Serena's played as well. But it's pretty much a throwback at this stage.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me, this is a very similar list to what I played at the Open, where you'd have to sort of play, the London Open that is, where you'd have to play the sort of catchers to try and turn one Meloetta cheese Palkia by catchering up a Palkia, trying to take 2 prizes on turn 1. And I guess the big advantage or the difference between 4 DTE Mew and the Fusion Mew is obviously the Fusion Energy allows you to play Meloetta with that Murderous Echo attack. And just give you a nice big 1 prize option. Here we actually see an attack we don't see too often with the energy mix, allowing you to attach an energy from your deck. Doesn't say anything about basic, so you can just get the fusion energies out of the deck there. And I'm guessing Brent thinking I'm probably not going to be under much offensive pressure if I'm playing against Sander turn 2, so I can take a turn off and do a little bit of energy.
Yeah,
mix.
definitely. And Sander having to promote that routes back into the active spot after that escape rope there. But immediately does evolve into that Curlier, does immediately discard that first Mewtwo piece into the discard. As you already mentioned and alluded to, this deck is very all-in with the Mewtwo V-Union, so it actually has to kind of get those pieces in as soon as possible, and with that refinement ability, being able to sort of quickly burn through and draw cards, it's amazing to see a different engine to be able to do so. Obviously, the Gormandize is there as a key aspect of the deck to be able to just start refreshing the hands as quickly as possible. But just with the little different tech cards, as you mentioned, if you're a Mewtwo V-Union, eventually when it comes out, and you don't need to use the healing regenerative attack to be able to kind of heal 200 damage off, you can just kind of move it back around. And even if you just leave your Curliers or your Radiant Gardevoirs and you scoop up nets and heal that way as well, you can just start final burning as soon as possible and dealing outrageous amounts of damage. And as you can see there, Sander kind of prioritizing the refinement ability. As we continue just kind of going through the deck. He's got so many different card outs. He's got the Ultra Balls, the Quick Balls. He'll be looking for a way to get Gormanized back in the active spot. And then just kind of refresh his hand once again. And here's another Ultra Ball. Just kind of going through the pieces at the moment. None of the Mewtwo V-Union pieces are prized either.
Which is nice, yeah.
Yeah, of course, still playing the packages like Peonia to kind of pick up pieces anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of directs this. Does still have a number of the disruption cards.
Yes.
The Flannery, the Fan of Waves to kind of cause really sort of a lot of issues for a lot of different decks. Brent's going to be having to try and manage his resources well from this scenario going forward, and maybe that's why he went for the energy mix. Yeah,
I think if you can, well, I mean, how can I say, if you're playing against if you know you're playing against Mewtwo V-Union, I think a priority would be try and get to 4 fusion energies in play. But just as I say, that one is getting discarded, which is really unfortunate. So what I was going to say is if you have 4 fusion energies in play, that means your Meloetta as Murder's Echo actually starts at 280 base damage with a choice back. I mean, you can actually one-shot Mewtwo V-Union. So that's, but Sander has slammed the door shut on that, unfortunately. So that means we're going to have to see a turn for Brent where he tries to stack a lot of power tablets. But as it does go over to Brent's turn, and I guess we're looking at Sander's deck, it's almost like his NAIC deck where you remove some of the slower cards like your Vettals and Miltanks and just trying to turbo out the V-Union at a faster rate, which I think makes a lot of sense in this format. Brent has a retreat, and we start to see that Fusion Strike system bonkers ability letting you draw up to the amount of Fusion Strike Pokemon you have in play.
Yeah, so yeah, with Sander's deck, instead of necessarily going via the energy denial route that he did for LAIC into the Lugias, he's now using and utilizing cards like V-Guard energy to kind of build a tankier Mewtwo V-Union, and then of course with the healing concepts of the different cards that he's teching in, that's how he can kind of get around and constantly just keep punching through with that amazing damage. There's a Pokemon catcher for a Tails there. Many flip cards now in Brent's list, alongside the Chromatics as well, as he continues to burn through and burst through into his deck with the Genesect Fusion Strike system. And he's just got a number of options here, because of course for him to kind of burst through the damage, he's going to have to use those power tablets at the right time. He's going to have to try and use Silene to kind of bring them back, give him another opportunity to try and burst a lot of damage on. Of course, we do see 1 power tablet in the prizes as well. So he will be looking to try and get that as soon as possible, and then just have one of those crazy turns which maybe can one-shot a Mewtwo V-Union. But that's going to be a massive game plan, and he's got to try and identify that as soon as possible.
Yeah, we even saw the Forest Hill Stone V-Star power being used, and I imagine you wouldn't really want to be using that in this scenario. You'd rather try and hold that to try and find, like you alluded to, those power tablets. You can just stack them. But I'm guessing Brent didn't draw into a Mew VMAX because I think he took an Ultra Ball off the V-Star power to then get some cards out of the hand to grab the Mew VMAX. So a little bit unfortunate there, but then again, when you do have Genesect, you can just draw a ton of cards. But when you try and hold power tablets, it's limiting in the fact that you can only draw up to 6 cards. If like 3 of them are tablets or cards that you can't play, you're only drawing 3 then, and it can get a little bit tricky to try and work them in. But you do have cards like Chromatic to try and get them as well. But Yeah, looks like we're going to see a Techno Blast onto the Curlier.
Going into the Lost Zone, because that Lost City Stadium that was played as well. And the Snorlax is back in the active spot, so Sander wasn't able to find that energy or sort of a scoop-up net to kind of retreat out of it. But there's a Trekking Shoes again. Lots of different utility cards to try and burn through. There's another Level Ball to try and get more of those Curliers out, because it's under 90 HP. It's only 80 HP to continue using Refinement and sort of getting through that deck where possible. Does play the one rare candy to allow him to kind of go from the Ghastly into that Gengar to be able to kind of move those damage counters around his Psychic Pokemon.
Life Shake, baby.
Which is something we don't see a lot as well. But he's also playing another very unique card, which we won't see in this right now, particularly at this stage of the game. But he's got that Shadow Rider Calyrex as well, with the Shadow Mist attack for 10 damage. But during your opponent's next turn, they can't play any special energies or stadium cards from their hand, which against things like the 4 DTE, because their only way is to actually play the DTE is that. But because Brent is playing Fusion Strike, he has access to a list of Sparkle, and there's other ways to kind of get energy into play. So, you know, that's why Sander probably wouldn't go down this route, but it's another way of dealing with things like the Mew list that he's seen in other matchups.
Yeah, we've seen that Shadow Rider be used before by Alessandro Cremasoli in combination with like Path to the Peak or Collapse Stadium to just halt Mew decks or even Reggie's decks at that point, and it gets a little bit dangerous, that Shadow Mist. But like you said, Sander playing against the Fusion Mew here, can't really go down that route because you have at least a Sparkle and even Energy Mix at this point. So we see 2 of the Curliers in play now, 1 Refinement being used, and well, credit to Sander, he is doing quite well here. He's setting up quite well. Just got to get those VU. Oh, we actually see the Gardevoir here as well. So the Gardevoir has that Shining Arcana ability, which lets you basically take the top 2 cards of your deck. If you find any energy cards there, you can attach them. So it's a bit like there's a third V-Union piece, by the way, in discard pile there, folks. In case you don't know actually how the V-Union works, I don't really describe that. So the Mewtwo V-Union is actually a combination of 4 cards, and you have to get all 4 cards into the discard pile before you can sort of bring them out of the discard pile, combine them together and put them onto your bench. And because they are 4 cards, they have a combination of 4 attacks, and this one even has an ability. So one of the attacks lets you grab 2 energies from the discard pile and attach them. That's Union Gain. We have Life Explosion, which lets you spread 16 damage counters. There's Super Regeneration, which is what we normally see with the Mewtwo V-Union, which lets you heal 200. We saw that to great effect at NAIC. And then we have Final Burn for 4 energy, 300 damage, and that bottom part has the ability Photon Barrier, which actually quite nice, prevents all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to this Pokemon, so stuff like Confusion or anything like this. Actually really cool.
Yeah, not just the Confusion, but things like that Yveltal.
Yes, Yveltal.
Not able to just instantly knock it out.
Or the Articuno as well, actually, that we just saw. So actually a really handy ability.
Yeah, and then we see we kind of have a Gormandize, or Sander has up to 7 cards already, and it's kind of back over to Brent to continue applying pressure. You see a lot of those energies sort of come down now, as that Mew on the bench there has 2 fusion energies on it. Both Mews also have the choice belts. Again, that opportunity to keep trying to increase the damage output, sort of anticipating a moment when the Mewtwo V-Union may actually find its place. And there's a Silene, there's a first heads and 1 tails.
Wonder what this grabs.
Likely to kind of grab, is that the switch card, just in case anything gets gusted up, of course. So there are a number of sort of switch cards and escape ropes in Brent's list. We've seen the escape rope earlier as well. So that could have been a way for Sander to maybe gust something up, get something stuck in the active, and then find a way to maybe just start using Psy Explosion to just kind of keep putting damage counters around where necessary. But yeah, it's just back over to Sander now. It's just kind of thinking about how he's going to use those Curliers and then also that Gardevoir to kind of look at the 2 cards.
Well, Sander's at a +6 cards here with the Shining Arcana and then the 2 refinements. Like, he's going to turbo through the deck so fast.
That's it. That's how the deck's built. I mean, Shining Arcana, it's not just look at the top 2 and any psychic energies or basic energies you can attach them to your Pokemon. You could just put the 2 cards straight into your hand.
It's almost a bit like...
it's a trade or refinement without the discard.
Yeah, it's like... it reminds me a bit of Intrepid Soul from Zacian, but it doesn't end your turn, right? Obviously, Zacian lets you look at top 3, but this is 2, and you get to keep the cards, and your turn continues, and we see another refinement there. So Sander just trying to get those Mewtwo V-Unions in a discard pile. I think there's 2 there now, I believe. Was it?
I think you said there was 3 a moment ago.
3. So here's a Peonia. Let's see if he gets the Gengar out here.
He picks up the Gengar and a Psychic Energy.
Gets the Gengar. I think Rare Candy's in hands. We're going to see a little bit of laugh shaking going around.
It's definitely something you can consider. And his hand's such a big hand right now. He can start using and putting some of those pieces which he doesn't necessarily need into the prize cam for us there. It looks like he put the Snorlax and the Scoop Up Net, which are a little bit less useful in this situation. Wants to make sure he has the right energies available to him as well. Of course, keeping things like the Gengar and the Rare Candy ready for that Ghastly to evolve into it when he needs to. So obviously he has to time the actual evolution as well. But what's really cool about the Scoop Up Net, he can use the Gardevoir, almost like how we've seen with the sort of Shady Dealings chaining. You can kind of build your deck to kind of constantly keep drawing so many cards. So he could burst through and draw maybe about 8-10 cards in a turn if he wanted to keep using Scoop Up Nets to kind of evolve those other Curliers and then keep using Gardevoir's ability. Lots of different utility options from that. But it's fantastic to see. Yeah, he's been able to grab, I believe, that Power Pad from the prize as well. Gets Peona back in. And also the Flannery, which is super important. He's already seen the Silene go. And yeah, because that Fusion Energy, I don't think he put that back into this deck, did he?
No, he took the Switch card and then Fusion Transition to draw it. I'm guessing there's 2 ways he's either played. Either he's got a dead hand and he didn't have another VMAX, so he had to actually switch to retreat. Or he's decided, wait, I'm playing against Sander. He probably wants to deck me out. I'm going to need to stop playing cards so I make it as hard for him as possible.
It's one of those things where you sit across a player like Sander or any sort of real control and you start seeing pieces come together. Yeah, you really just don't want to let a Ghastly go down because Gengar is so important at this stage. But when you sit across a control player, you have to find multiple ways to try and maybe just deal with it.
Yeah.
And it becomes a real problem when you don't really know. Yeah, he's Rare Candied in the Gengar already. That Ghastly also has a Psychic Energy. Does have a Fade Out attack. You put this Pokemon and all attached cards into your hand, so you can kind of just hit and run.
Yeah, a little bit of hit and run, 20 damage,
just to kind of apply some really odd pressure. But at the same time, the reason why you might do that is because the Mew V-Max has 310 HP. Yeah. So just by dealing the 20 damage, your final burn from the Mewtwo V-Union can one-hit it.
Can KO it, because I don't think... Yeah, Brent isn't playing the Oricori, actually. It's something I didn't realise. It's not playing the Oricori, so that final burn or any damage will be, as it reads on the card. And we see a Cram, I see a Lost City. I think I saw 1 tablet. Go on, show us your hand, Brent. Go on, help us out. But yeah, it's not looking too great.
There's 3 tablets, a Cramorant, and a Lost City, I think I see.
Oh, okay. So 3 tablets isn't too bad, actually, because you want to hold them for when the V-Union comes out. So let's see. I don't think this Mew V, unless there's a V-Max, this can't really deal with this Snorlax. You definitely don't want to play these tablets to
He's
KO.
Just Psychic Leaping, I think,
for
some damage.
Psychic Leap for 70. And I guess... Now that Sander has this, the double Curlier and the Gardevoir, this makes playing those sort of disruption supporters like a Flannery or the Peonia or even a Silene, it makes them much more better now because you're still drawing cards. Like obviously the drawback to... Oh, was that the last piece? I think that might be the last piece.
Yeah, so it's just now about timing the right cards, getting the right pieces into his hand ready for the next
Has he got a Scoop Up Net in hand?
He does have a Scoop Up Net in hand as well. So he's just got to make sure, because obviously Sander's going to be wary about the choice belts that are available, also all the power tablets that Brent hasn't used yet. Of course, he's already discarded one of the fusion energies, so it's just focusing now on trying to limit Brent as much as possible. So that 210 base is already increased to 240 if he attacks with a fusion energy Mew. And then it's just power tablets, so 30, 30, 30. There's another 90 there, so plenty of damage. Sander will be looking for that V-Guard energy as well, and then if Brent is able to find a 4th power tablet, that's just so much damage to try and mitigate, and it becomes really hard. But there goes another fusion energy there from the Flannery as well, and the Stadium, of course, because the text means you also have to discard the Stadium. It's now just kind of grinding through at the moment. Sander's hand is far too big right now, so cannot use Gormandize. Those Curliers and Gardevoir really sort of come into the fore here to be able to draw as many cards as possible.
And I imagine, Sander, a control player for the longest of times, he probably knows the Mon game. He's thinking, right, if Brent isn't drawing many cards with Fusion Strike system, he's probably either holding really good cards like Power Tablets or he's dead drawing. But in case he is holding really good cards like Power Tablets, I can't just bring out the V-Union because it will just get KO'd like you alluded to. So Sander even has access to the V-Union, opting to, let me just disrupt a little bit more, with these disruption supporters, which I really like to see. And we see the Elisa Sparkles that is the last fusion energy, I believe. So if that fusion energy if there's an energy that goes down on that Mew V in the active, that means there'll be no more fusion energies left, meaning if Brent wants to attack, it will have to be with a DT one which minuses 20, and that minus 20 is actually pretty important.
Yeah, it will start to play a part in terms of whether it can deal the full amount of damage on that Mewtwo V-Union. It also has 310 HP, but with that V-Guard energy, reducing damage by 30 from Pokemon Vs, it's in effect a 340 HP Pokemon. And at that stage, you're looking to really just try and out-tank decks, which typically can't hit that kind of damage, but we know Mew often has that one chance to do so. So Brent has identified that. That's why he's not played any of those power tablets. He didn't need to necessarily over KO the Snorlax and just kind of double hit it with the Psychic Leap. So just trying to manage his resources very well here. As you see, Sander also playing now his Silene, rolling 2 dice.
There we go.
And there we go. That's one heads, which is
law of averages, can't argue with that.
Perfect for Sander, being able to then also still kind of maintain that loop with the power pads as well. And they're just kind of straight draw into the power pad, so then he can continue cycling through where he necessarily needs it. And there's the power pad, likely the Flannery.
Flannery and Silene, so you can get this. And we saw a sort of similar signing loop at NAIC, right? Sort of looping support like Team Yell Cheer it was back then in combination with, Silene as well. So you can just loop back this stuff. You have to imagine Stan just going to try and wear down Brent before that V-Union comes into play. We might actually see that fade out from Ghastly. And like you mentioned, it's actually a really relevant 20 damage from that little Ghastly.
Yeah, definitely. Just that 20 damage to kind of put the Mew V maxes in range of Final Burn. The key thing from Sander here, he's going to know that Brent's holding on to things like those power tablets.
Yes.
It's a scary prospect because there's no way for Sander to actually disrupt the hand of Brent, which could be really, really difficult to kind of manage going forward. Because Brent hasn't had to use any of these power tablets as of yet, I'm not too sure how Sander will actually play out this game, because he's going to expect a massive burst turn from Brent's side. And there's an Ultra Ball, just getting rid of the Echoing Horn and the Meloetta, your favorite.
Yeah.
There's the active with the. It's okay.
Yeah, I still love you.
There's a Fusion Strike, the Fusion Strike Energy Mew, VMAX in the active spot, of course, with that 20 damage. I think Sander will be looking to, at the very least, get rid of this Mew, given the opportunity, because it won't have that damage reduction from the 20 as well. So let's just see how the rest of this turn plays out, and then how Sander's going to be able to kind of maintain this, because Brent is down to 3 prizes.
He is, yeah. Sander can't really hang around much longer. I wonder if Sander might try and combine some sort of... does he even play Gust?
Oh,
no, he doesn't play Gust. I was going to say he might try and Gust up a Genesect and try and, Side Explosion around and hope Brent doesn't have a retreating option. But that's not going to be the case either. So, yeah, with those power tablets in hand and Sander not playing like a Marnie or any sort of hand disrupt, it is going to be interesting to see how he actually navigates this. And now I'm starting to see why Mies was saying before how Mew can be a very bad matchup for a deck like this, because that burst potential, not many other decks have that option, just swing upwards of 300 at a whim, but Mew is one deck in format that can do it.
Yeah, definitely. And just thinking about the Mew VMAX, we'll start trying to add up some of the damage just to kind of help everyone out as well. There's the Flannery one more time, again identifying key aspects from that Fusion Strike energy, because that doesn't have the reduction from the DTE.
Yes.
But yeah, the 210 base as the most powerful attack that's currently available right now. And there's the Fan of Waves just to kind of cause a little bit more. It's possible this might be the turn where he's actually looking at it to think, maybe it's time to bring the Mewtwo out. Ooh.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait.
He's found a way out.
If there's no fusion energies left, there's no fusion energies left in that. You can't play Elisa, which means a Shadow Mist means Brent can't attack, no?
No, won't
because there's
won't
no
be
room
able
for
to.
there's no room for a Mew V now.
There's no
so that
more
means
fusion energy.
There's no fusion energy, which means you can't energy mix as well to get out of this. And the Shadow Mist with no Oricorio, Shadow Mist actually does damage. There's no way to Psychic Leap.
And this
so
is
this
where
10 damage is going to stick.
It's going to keep going. It's going to clock up, and Sander's just going to be cycling through his deck and hoping to just keep going with the power pads and make sure he doesn't deck out. Now, we mentioned how important this Calyrex would be in the DTE version, but when it gets to the stage where Brent becomes only the DTE version,
exactly.
Maybe this is the time for Sander, and Sander's found that moment by checking all of those resources. As a control player, it's so key for you to understand not just your own, but you have to manage your opponents as well. And it's gotten to the stage here. There's the Pokemon catcher, so looking for a way to potentially stop
this Shadow Mist.
That Shadow Mist attack. The Gengar comes up, and which is a bit more of a bulkier Pokemon. Does have 2 retreat, and this is going to be the moment where Sander has to find a way out of that position. He did use that scoop up net already to get the Shadow Rider into the active spot. So it'll be interesting to see how.
Does he have a way out of that? Does he?
This is going to be vital here for Sander.
He could Silene maybe a scoop up net. And then Shining Arcana into hand, but you have to imagine these targets for the Silene are so crucial when your deck gets to this small size. I don't know if that could be, if that's going to be an option, but this is so many different options. It's just thinking about the remaining cards that Sander's put back into that Gengar could be a bit of the reason why right now Sander may struggle here, because is there a way to retreat out of it? There's the Silene and the trekking shoes, which is super important, but I think he needs to hit potentially double heads on this Silene, because he will want to get that power pad back into the deck as well. So unless he actually has another out, we're about to have a little look. There's the Peonia. Oh, he's not? He's going to put it down to the Peonia to get the scoop up net.
He has put the scoop up net there himself, so he knows where the scoop up net is.
Oh, does Peonia not shuffle?
No.
Oh, no, it's Heavy Ball that shuffles. not Peonia.
You know exactly
you
where
are
your
correct.
cards
You are correct.
placed. So long as Sander hasn't forgotten where that scoop up net is, he will have access to a retreat out from this Gengar. Of course, doesn't have the Gengar for later turns.
No.
But this allows him to continue Shadow Misting.
Continue the mist. Continue the loop. Here we go. Or the lock, I should say. Here comes the...
He's got the psychic energy.
Sander. Why are we even doubting him?
He hasn't taken the bottom left. He knew there was an energy there, and he knew the scoop up net. So
it's Sander.
Realizing that Snorlax is less useful to him, because ideally he probably would have wanted that power pad.
Yes.
And maybe the Pukumuku as well, to be able to pitch and just draw cards when he needs to keep going through. But as you can see, there's the Gassy going back. The Curlier is no longer needed to draw any more cards, where Sander doesn't really have much left. And the scoop up net in hand now, so to continue. So Brent again, Sander on the defensive, having to create this wall with that Shadow Rider Calyrex, and it's back up in the active spot, and just now going to be continue to deal 10 damage every time. Yeah,
and that's what you see, the sort of top play there from Sander. Brent trying his best to get out of this, and Sander's like, nah, not today. And that's a 1. Is that 1?
The go is really odd with a die, so we do apologize. That is a G and a 1 on the dice there.
Yeah.
Really odd from the go dice, but we're here and we know, so we're happy to tell everyone at home that it is a Tails. There's a double power tablet. He's just going to have to try and draw through cards.
What is he trying to draw here? Another Gust? We did see the energy go down on the Gardevoir, and we do see another one in the hand. So Sander can just pay retreat on that Guardy if Brent tries to Gust that. And I think
he's already used the boss, right? That's why the Gengar came up in the active. And he only plays the 1 copy because the other gusting option is Serena.
And
there's no Vs on the bench. He's also discarded already the Echoing Horn from an Ultra Ball earlier.
Oh, true.
So there's not that Sander, I believe, even has a V in the discard pile right now. So it's really just Brent to kind of look through the deck and almost find out whether he even has an out at this stage. And Sander...
Does he even have a catcher left? That might be what he's trying to dig for?
Potentially. But again, there's an energy already on the Guardy. And Sander just needs to, and I think that potentially is a scoop there.
Concession?
I think Sander's found a path to victory here, which is incredible. We didn't quite anticipate that. We spoke about the Shadow Rider.
Yeah, we did.
The Calyrex there. We like you said, we fought with a 4 DTE Mew. That's how an easy way of essentially beating that version. But when it got to a point where Brent's list is just 4 DTEs,
yeah, exactly.
What can he do next?
And that's going to make it really hard now. I was trying to think as a Mew player myself, what would I do? So it means you have to sort of maybe attack with a DTE Mew, hold your Fusion, hold your Elisa for when the Mewtwo V-Union comes out maybe, but then that means you're not taking prizes. It just becomes too much for me to think about.
It's a tangler of a bit of a route to try and work
it
it
is,
out.
Isn't it? Yeah.
But it's incredible to kind of see this all in action and how much thought process goes into a deck like Sanders, because of course it's not a typical loop deck. It doesn't have anything like the Elder Gods to kind of keep cycling through. It's just simply, we're going to stop Special Energy's attack. We're going to use Mewtwo V-Union to, if there's an opportunity to just kind of almost blow through most decks with that final burn attack or Psy-Explosion. It's so creative in seeing the way that Sander can manage his own resources and his opponents to find a way to win here.
Yeah, and I remember I saw a tweet from Joe Bernard says, is there anyone scarier to see across the table than Sander? And I have to agree, because he's always going to play some sort of controlling stall archetype or some sort of loop. But genuinely, if you have no clue what's going to happen, you might see a Ghastly one day, you might see a Mewtwo the next, you might see an Umbreon even.
I mean, it's amazing that we get to see, is this the 4th or 5th Radiant Pokemon?
Yeah.
Throughout this weekend, that Radiant Serena was discarded by Sander earlier in the game. But we do move into Game 2 now. There's just under 20 minutes to go. We know typically control games are a bit longer. So Brent's going to be looking to try and apply pressure as soon as possible to try and limit Sanders. But Sanders led his best starter. In one of his 4 copies of that Gormandized Snorlax, which is incredible for control players to continue just kind of getting cards into your hand, to get those combo pieces off. And in the Fusion Strike Mew, you don't typically have that kind of hand disruption options. You don't play the Marnies, you don't play the Roxannes. So Sander will always have his hand available to him, and that's going to be quite a scary thought.
We actually see one tablet get discarded there. I wonder what Brent's hand was, because that's a costly resource. They actually prized a tablet
like
as well.
One there. So this is already, Sanders already probably licking his lips, knowing that that's 30 damage already not going to be coming down on a Mewtwo V-Union if necessary.
And we see the sadness of the turn 1 Genesect V-Star with the Foresteel just to grab a VIP battle pass. It feels a little bit sad when you have to do that, but it does get you in the game at the very least. And Brent looking to get their Genesects down, flood the board so you can start drawing some cards with Fusion Strike system. But, 1 tablet prize, 1 discard pile already. I guess Brent does play a copy of Sarlene actually, so the discard pile is kind of accessible. But still, it's one more hurdle that you don't really want to have to overcome, relying on the Sarlene and flipping heads and even finding it at one of as well.
More and more flips, and it's just, are you going to be one of those gamers today where you're just hitting all those heads to kind of win your matchups? But at the same time, it's such a powerful concept, just being, you have to flip. With catches, for example, if you miss it, it's fine, it's a playable card, but if you hit it, sometimes that can just win you the game there and then. And we've seen catches come in and out of play. It's been errated. It's an amazing card. But yeah, these flip cards have such inherent power. Chromatic, being able to discard things like the Battle VIP passes after turn 1. But, Brent has finally got his full board out. He's got 3 Mews and 3 Genesects this time. Wow. And there goes the first piece from Sanders' side as well. We get to see the right hand of Mewtwo, it looks like.
Or the left hand, I'm not 100% sure actually. No, it is the right hand.
I back the right hand.
Yeah, you are correct.
Which is a quick ball. He's probably going to start to try to find other curly pieces, other Snorlax, because this Snorlax is likely to go down.
Yeah.
So just again managing his resources, finding out what's prized. We're just going to have a quick look here with you. That Flannery, which was key in Game 1 to be able to remove those Fusion Strike energies, will only be accessed via Peonia, but the rest seems okay at the moment.
I thought that Flannery was a 2-off, but you're right, it's only a 1-off.
No, it's just
we saw that Flannery, that 1-off, get used an awful lot in that last game.
It was used 3 times, and as soon as Sander also saw the Silene go as well, and again, in this in Brent's list, typically it does nothing like Power Pads, they kind of reuse it. You only really need that 1 extra Silene. Once that's gone, those Fusion Strike energies weren't coming back.
No, exactly. And I wonder now, on the tail end of game 1, if Brent will maybe target the Sarline differently. Instead of a switch card, maybe he will be trying to get those fusion energies back, because that 20 damage minus is going to be so huge when having to hit into those big upwards of 300 damage, especially when you consider the V-Guard energy as well.
And there's the quick ball target of the routes there. Not something we expected to see at all.
Sarline.
The Sarline, maybe looking for that quick ball again would be fantastic. It's double tails, which is a bit of a shame. Not ideal, but there's... Okay, he's got the other pieces in hand. More routes, more Snorlax.
Wow, who needs a VIP battle pass, eh?
Yeah, and there you go. A nice...
Is that an empty hand, 7?
Ooh, I didn't think so, but it could be. It looks like it did look like a fresh 7 there by Sander. That quick ball would have been allow him maybe to get another routes in play, because we saw how vital it was to kind of get free, drawing 6 cards per turn. Incredible.
That is incredible. Imagine if there was a supporter just said draw 6 cards. That would be best supporter in the game.
Supporter. Imagine being able to then also play a supporter after that. So incredible scenes here from Sander. But as we see back over to Brent, that evolve into 2 Mew VMAXs in the active spot and 1 on the bench there. Genesect, first Fusion Strike system, looks like a fresh 6 himself. A number of pieces there. Does have the extra Fusion Strike energy, which will be an easy attachment. And will start swinging away, because now he can use Max Miracle, even without even using the first attack there from the Mew VMAX. Could just use it on itself because of that Fusion Strike energy.
Yeah, Max Miracle, not an attack you use all the time, but a very good one. For 2 energy, 130 damage, and it goes through all effects, you know. Good against stuff like Miltank, it's good against stuff like Duraludon as well, even. And
applying that pressure.
Yeah, and it just means if you hit it into low HP Pokemon, you haven't got to play the musical chairs of having to switch and retreat and all that business by using Technoblast. Just want to do a little Max Miracle there.
Yeah, it makes things a little bit easier, doesn't it? Especially when Sander's side of the board typically doesn't have anything higher HP-wise than the 130. Those Snorlax kind of being in perfect range for a Max Miracle. But there's another quick ball, another piece, maybe the right leg this time. But we'll find out for you later, of course, when we maybe would like to see it come out, if it even needs to. I mean, we saw Sander...
We saw how effective that last strategy was. I don't even know if it's needed.
Well, the issue is with that Flannery and the prizes. I mean, we saw it 3 times, and I guess with the Curliers and the Gardevoir being able to draw cards, that's why we were able to see it so frequently in his game 1 game plan. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of progresses through here. There'll be an opportunity to try and find those Peonias, because there's a 2 of in his deck, and try and use them as soon as possible. Maybe trying to get that piece, because it's so important. There's Track and Shoes, discarding
the Gengar. Okay, does he play an ordinary one?
Well,
I guess got Sarline, heavy Sarline actually, so...
Potentially after game 1, he's already identified...
Probably not necessary.
Doesn't need to necessarily use the Mewtwo V-Union. It's all about timing the right cards.
Sarline again. Option to go 1 at a time this time.
One head.
He got 1, okay.
And he's going straight through. Would he just...
I wonder what he takes it. Moves Gengar to the front. I thought it might back a copy of Trekking Shoes maybe, so you can draw a bit more cards.
Yeah, it looks about right. You got it right. You got it right. I think it's just kind of... He still needs to kind of continue bursting through his deck.
Yeah, still needs to set up.
He does have double Power Pad in his deck now, unlike last time where he had to... he prized both. He hasn't seen any Curlies yet.
I was about to say.
Which is quite interesting. But he does have the full 4 routes on board now.
Goodness.
And if I was staring across from that, I wouldn't have a clue what was going on. But and energy attachments to them as well. But that's a free retreat. There's a fan of waves. Caused a little bit of disruption.
I like that.
Caused some problems there for Brent, which makes it a little bit more difficult. But is Brent holding another one? He's holding 3 energies.
So that means Elise is not going to be an option now. No. At least for fusion energies. I guess there's 1 in deck actually.
Yeah, 1 in deck. I mean, because there's only 1 out on the board, there's none in the discard. You can still use Alyssa Sparkle until there's actual full knowledge of all 4, which is another cool mechanic there. And straight in with another attack, that's taking the 2nd prize from Brent, just the attachment of the Choice Belt to the bench Mew, and then the Fusion Strike energy to the active, and another Max Miracle. Through those Snorlax currently, Sander's just kind of... He's a little bit on the back foot, but this is what happens with control decks. You're just taking your time, because you're single prizes. You're not giving too much away at this point. There's the Trek and Shoes, discarding the first option and taking the 2nd card. It's a level ball. He finally has access to his first Curlier, but he's just going to have a quick look. Maybe he can look for a different target if he maybe just Trekking Shoes 2 Curlier first.
Yeah, it's going to say just maximize auto drawing into multiple.
There's an Ultra
There's
Ball.
Ultra Ball.
So more discard options and more opportunities to. There's a Curlier already coming down.
Here we go.
Yeah, there's the first refinement of game 2 by Sander. He's just he doesn't know what to discard. There's the Quick Ball. Just picking 2 cards there we haven't quite seen. We just get a little
Ghastly in a net by the looks of it.
Yeah, there's another Curlier as well.
Here we go. This is where things start to get a little bit crazy now. I mean, if all 4 of those Curliers evolve, that's +8.
Yeah, we talk about how you can almost daisy chain those shady dealings.
Yeah.
And it's been a while. We get to see
another Mewtwo piece.
Another full flow of 4 stage 1s as support Pokemon in this way, where you're just drawing more cards, or in the Inteleons or Drizzle lines where you're shady dealings and tutoring for certain cards. It's fantastic to see, because we do have other cards that have a very similar ability. That Make Do from the Chinchino.
Yes.
There's
a Lipard with trade as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very common theme for us to continue being able to just draw cards in the Pokemon game, and we're seeing it in full effect right now. There's a Power Pad for double Silene, some of those early uses. Of course, with some of the supporters that Sander's playing, he actually doesn't play many at all, so maybe that's why we're trying to utilize those Silenes. He knows where they are, and double Power Pads in deck is absolutely fine for him to just kind of use it early, maybe get more of those draw cards like the Trekking Shoes or more Quick Balls for him to kind of get those pieces out. There's the third Curlier come down, another Mewtwo piece go. That looks like the left leg. Yeah, I'm backing it. I've got this sorted. There's a
4th piece there. He's got the 4th piece. The 4th piece is in hand. We might see the V-Union.
There's lots of opportunities
this turn. I don't know, actually.
He can take his time with it.
Yeah, it doesn't need to. I guess Sander isn't to know that all the energy's in Brent's hand, so you can't see an explosion with at least a Sparkle to go up to 4
Here
fusion
comes
energy.
the 4th Curlier.
Oh my goodness.
Look at this. Just being able to discard 1 every time and draw 2. He's drawing in seeing 8 more cards. That deck is going to be short in
that
quick
deck's
time.
going to be thin for sure, but that's what the control decks like to do. We've seen Sander likes to operate with a low deck size, so you can really manipulate what card you're drawing with cards like Silene.
You know exactly what's coming next. That's that way. Of course, we haven't seen the Guardy yet, but just being able to just pick 2 cards without discarding at some stage is fantastic as well, because then again you're managing your resources and not having to constantly loop certain cards back into the deck. There's the Ghastly, just kind of threaten it as well. That extra 20 damage, we saw it used in the last game.
We did.
Which is fantastic. That little fade out, fade out back into your hand, which is pretty cool to see. And there's the Gormandize to replenish his hand back up to 7. So Brent still staring down at a number of Snorlax. He's going to have to get through his 3rd one now. But again, he just attaches the DT and then does so because he has all those energies in hand. It doesn't really matter, or it matters less.
I guess Sander's going to run out of sort of Pokemon to sort of offer up here. I guess you got the Ghastly. The other Snorlax is in the prizes. I'm guessing Sander's going to try and find a Peonia. I'm imagining there that if we didn't see the Mewtwo, maybe that's not part of his immediate game plan. Just want to try and, offer up prizes, try and find the Flannery. But the thing is, the Flannery can only be found via Peonia. I don't think we've actually seen that in his hand yet. I imagine with 8 cards to draw, though, it might not take too long to find it.
Yeah, there's a level ball. I think he's just kind of double checking. He couldn't thin out his deck. He's got things like that Mana Feeder, allowing him to kind of make sure he gets those key resources when he starts trading things away. Just get the less useful cards out of the deck and out of his hand in reality, because he's also hanging on to that V-Guard energy as well. So a number of options, a number of directions. Still plenty of time for Brent to actually take 3 prizes. Just needs to announce 3 more attacks.
Yeah.
Doesn't have access to that boss, or a gusting effect. Of course, the escape rope kind of helps in some way. Could remove a Curlier out of the way. There's a pitch of the Pyukumuku being able to draw an extra card. Just keep drawing. That's the name of the game from Sander at the moment. When you're looking at that board, it doesn't seem very scary at all. But when Sander's looking at his hand,
are we about to see the?
He's got the 3 pieces. He's put it back behind the level ball.
He's teasing us. Come on, Sander, don't do that to us.
We know there's one more in his hand, and he hasn't used any of the Curliers yet. There's the energy going straight there, and there's the Gardy. Now evolving the one that just used refinement. Now that same line of Gardevoir has drawn 4 cards. This is. He's drawn the energy, so he can actually technically use that ability to attach it.
Oh, yeah, he could. That's a good point.
He's gone straight to the Curlier, it looks like. at this current moment in time. Just to double check, it does have a little slap tack for 30 damage.
Yeah, little slap. That's literally what it's called.
Probably not what he's going to be doing, but he could scoop up that Gardevoir.
Yes.
He could then evolve it into the other one, and then use Brainwave, where it's got a 60 damage attack plus 30 for each psychic energy attached to this Pokemon. So it does kind of ramp up a little bit. But, of course, ideally you would have wanted to use those energies for that Mewtwo V-Union instead. So has discarded that Manaphy now. Has got a number of pieces. Got that Radiant Serena in hand as well. And he's going to continue trading, or refinement.
Refining the deck.
Yeah, just keep going. There's another 2 pieces. There's a Silene and a Fog Crystal. Just so many pieces, so many options available to Sander because his hand's just never being disrupted. He really just has opportunity to use whatever he likes at this stage.
Yeah.
Just eyeing up that Silene.
Almost have your whole deck in your hand, as it were. Like, here we see the Silene. Here we go.
There's one heads. And there's 2
heads. Okay.
He's double headsing.
So let's see what he chooses to go for here then.
He's getting the
Goes
Gengar.
for the Gengar.
That opportunity
and
again.
A Power Pad,
Yeah, the Power Pad is normally the first target, typically when you Silene, especially when in a list like Sanders right now where you don't really have a loop possible. But he does have extra Silenes available to him because he was already putting both back. He also has another Power Pad available. So it's just identifying that now he wants to confuse the Mew, just kind of make him cause a bit of confusion. I mean, the Mews have free retreat.
Yeah.
And in this version of Control, Sanders is not playing anything like Galar-Mine to make a case where they get stuck in that position. So it'll be interesting to see how Sander plays out the rest of his turn. There's the final trade there.
I really wonder what the game plan is with this Yell Horn then, because you can just retreat into the next one, but then I guess maybe he wants the one with the DTE to attack next turn for some reason. Not 100% sure as to what the reasoning is there, but I'm sure Sander, Galaxy Brain over there, he knows exactly what's going on.
Maybe we shouldn't doubt him. I think he's the one in this position at 8-1-1 with this list. He looks like he's still eyeing up those.
Wait a minute, maybe if he... I was going to say, if he goes for the Union gain, I guess if you want to get the V-Union out this turn, it's harder for the one with the DTE to reach the damage. Yeah, so that's why then, because you're going to force the one with the DTE. There we got there eventually, and there it is.
The pieces are all together.
The Mewtwo V-Union. Pew, 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 pew. Look at that. Look how big that is.
Look at the size
with
of it.
With the V-Guard as well.
Yeah, that's vital to, again, kind of put it hopefully out of range. And then there's the Union gain attack that you see on all V-Union Pokemon. That colorless attack to be able to attach for Mewtwo V-Union those psychic energies from the discard up to 2 from the discard into 2 itself. And now there's just a massive Mewtwo staring down at a confused Mew VMAX. And as we go over to Brent, there's the trekking shoes. The Serena goes. This is it. I mean, Brent, if there's a way of somehow KOing this, that's the 3 prizes he needs to win this game. But Sander already identifying that there's the power tablets. One power tablet's gone. We saw there was 1 prize, but of course, Brent's been able to take that now. It's now just coming down to how Brent is going to be able to play out this turn. Sander has gone all in with his Mewtwo V-Union right now.
And it's interesting because there's no bench open for Meloretta. Meloreta's Echo is never an option. And I guess if he didn't have the fusion energies in hand, he could have bursted up to 4 fusion energies, started swinging with that Meloreta's Echo with a starting damage point of 280. But because there's no bench open, that's not an option, meaning we're going to have to just see a ton of power tablets being played here. And the problem is that if you're not going to get a KO, Sander can just opt to do that super regeneration, healing 200. Like, he's already at an effective, 330 HP, I believe. Which is 340, sorry.
In effect, because it reduces the damage. But it doesn't increase HP, but that's the amount of damage that it needs to do.
Which is a monstrous number, really. So,
yeah, it's a lot. And I guess this is why he's confused the Fusion Strike one, because it obviously has to retreat unless Brent goes for another flippy option, which it seems very unlikely. There's a Lost Vacuum, just to kind of get rid of cards from that. There's a Switch card as well, so it will be a chance to retreat into a Genesect or Mew, and then switch card back into it. So now it's not confused, and now it's doing a base 210, 240, 270. There's an extra
goodness.
needs to draw.
Silene, this
which
could be
big. Oh, there's the heads.
There's one.
Not what Sander wants to see. There's one heads, and there's...
Oh, dear.
He's just kind of making sure there's the other tablet there as well. So he's just going to pull it to the top of the deck. Fusion Strike system to draw into it. It looks like a fresh 6 as well. There's not many cards in his hand. He's going to need all the pieces at this point. And there's only one Fusion Strike used. There's a Chromatics. There's a third.
Ooh.
There's one more that he needs.
I think he needs one more, yeah.
And at this stage, Sander's just staring it down. Oh, wait, is it enough? That's 90, 220. So it's 330 right now. It is one more.
Yeah, it needs one more, yeah. Oh, goodness, yeah, the V-Guard. Yeah, that is right, Brent. The V-Guard does just push it out of range. There's a Chromatic. It could all come down to this. I mean, he's still got like 3 or 2 fusion. Oh, here we go.
Oh, it's the heads.
Oh, so it looks goodness.
Looks like that should be enough there.
Yeah.
So 120 plus the choice belts, 150 plus the 210. Techno Blast, that's 360 damage. That should be enough. So Brent has been able to close out game 2, which is incredible to actually see all that burst damage. I think Sander maybe didn't have a choice at that point to go any other route. You know, game 1, he was able to really showcase that Flannery and then his other tech cards like that Calyrex V, being able to use a Shadow Mist. But then game 2, with Brent being a bit more aggressive, taking out those Snorlaxes, reducing the chances for Sander. It was a bit slower because he didn't get the Curliers out immediately as he did in game 1, but then eventually got all 4. It was just a little bit slower and just was slightly not enough because of that 340 effect. Yep. So that's why game 1, Sander won. Game 2, Brent was able to take it back. So both players taking a tie in round 2 of day 2. Yeah,
it makes sense. There was definitely going to be not enough time for a full game 3 to conclude, so they've just agreed to tie it up. And we just saw, unfortunately, the Flannery being so important in game 1 and being prized just mean that I think you couldn't get those fusion energy off of me. You have to go into the V-Union and just hope and put it back into Brent's hand and say, I hope you can't KO this. And Brent dropping the rare 4 power tablet turn. That is a lot of damage.
Yeah, and even without using things like the Melodious Echo from the Meloetta to attack because there wasn't space for it. Normally, sometimes that's an easy way to ramp up a lot of damage. Dealing 280 damage with 4 Fusion Strike energies out on the board. This time having to just go the Technoblast route and then plow through with all the choice belts and the actual power tablets as well, dealing over KOing a Mewtwo V-Union with a V-Card energy.
Yeah, and it's very rare you have to summon all 4 pieces, all 4 tablets with a choice belt, and that only just gets you over the line there. But we saw that maximum damage output, and we did hear from Mees, I believe in the interview actually, that the Mew was a bit of a shaky matchup for this control deck.
Definitely.
But all credit to Sander, he did get one game there with that absolutely incredible Shadow Mist lock.
Yeah, definitely. So we're just going to be just finalizing that. So we're just going to go straight back to our interviews with Nico, and we'll be back shortly for the next round.